Hey guys, Jim Edwards here along with,
Stu Smith.
and
How are you?
welcome to episode, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm wonderful, Stu. Thanks very much. And yourself?
Good. Number 7.
So we're on episode 7, and today we're going to be talking about the number one job of any sales story you tell to sell. That's like my Dr. Seuss tie-in, the number one job of any sales story to tell to sell, kids. So
Is hit them in the fields.
hit them in the fields, hit them right in the fields. And actually, so what we're going to talk about in this episode is how to tell better stories so that you can get more sales, more signups, and more credibility so that you can just plain sell more without pulling your hair out. So there are 3 keys we're going to share with you today, as well as a Stu diving in and holding me accountable and not just letting me pontificate without challenging me. So the number one key when it comes to using stories to sell is not the story itself, but it is creating emotion in people. That is the number one thing that you need to do if you want to sell people stuff. And so if you're going to use story, you've got to use a story that's going to create emotion, because people buy on emotion. People, you may or may not realize this, but in order to get somebody to get off up that wallet, you've got to create emotion in them that makes them go, oh, wait, I'm either dissatisfied with where I am right now and I'm going to buy this in order to increase my level of satisfaction. I'm not feeling loved right now, so I want to buy this to increase my feeling of love. Whatever it is, you have to get them into an emotional state that then will facilitate the buying. And we're not talking about, negative to positive or negative to less negative or positive to more positive or getting them into bad state and then scaring them. There's all kinds of stuff that the kind of emotion that we'll talk about, I'm sure, ad nauseum in the future. But the biggest thing is that you got to remember that people buy on emotion and they justify on logic. So if you want people to buy, you actually have to change their emotional state. And the easiest way that you can change somebody's emotional state, other than stealing their dessert or kicking them in the gonads, is to tell them a story that will create emotion within them. So you got to make them sad if you want them to buy your product so that they can get happy. You got to inspire them so that they will want to stay inspired with your service or solution. So we're going to use Stu as an example. Okay, he may not even realize he does this, but when you tell stories of tell the story about the most recent buds class and how many guys you had there and how many of them made it through.
Yeah, I think there were like 10 of my guys.
Okay, let's start over. Hey guys, Stu Smith here. I want to tell you a quick story about the most recent buds class that is going through buds training out in Coronado, California right now. I think this ought to get you pretty excited to hear about the results these guys are getting. Okay, pick it up from there, Stu.
Yes. Well, it actually has worked out really well because they all but one made it through.
Okay.
However, I don't know what happened. I had a couple of do stupid things and actually got kicked out of training in second phase for missing a muster and some kind of like honor integrity violation. So,
Okay, that's not the story I
physically
wanted
they
to
made
hear.
it. Physically they made it. No, I was just being honest. No,
Sure.
that's not a story I even like to tell. I don't want to let a lot of people know that, hey, I had 10, there's 10 guys of mine at buds and then some buds instructor, beats up on them a little bit. But I know exactly where you're going with this. And I had a really good group of guys make it through. Statistically speaking, about 20% make it through, but we had almost 90% made it through this challenging event.
Right.
Just post the event, they did stupid things, and training's not over just because Hell Week's over.
Right. Well, and let's talk about what those stories now. If you wanted to talk to people about exactly what you just said, Training's not over until when Hell Week's over. I'm going to tell you guys a story that you really need to sit up and pay attention to.
Yes, exactly.
Now you think about training for years, and then you get to Buds and you make it through Hell Week. And now you think to yourself, okay, I'm done. I'm going to tell you a couple of these guys that went through and I worked with, knew these guys, good guys, and they had a momentary lapse in judgment that cost them their dreams forever.
Yeah.
Now, next time you're thinking about that, I want you to really think hard about these guys and how you would feel if that happened. And so I've got a podcast that you guys need to listen to that's going to walk you through the 10, whatever, selling people isn't always about, hey, get your credit card out. It's selling people on an idea. It's selling people on a mindset. It's selling people on a philosophy. It's selling people on a course of action. It's selling people on, it's not just, hey, I'm going to tell you a story and you're going to give me money. But you talk about a powerful story to sell people on keeping their shit wired tight. When these guys are going off to go to Buds, you need to tell them that story of those two guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wrote a big article on it yesterday about humility.
Right.
And, actually being humble and honest with yourself and, realizing things aren't over and getting cocky.
Right.
So
be humble or the world will humiliate you.
Yeah, absolutely. The life will humiliate you.
Yeah. Life will humble you too. So that's the big thing is that you've got to create emotion so people will pay attention.
That's a really good point, Jim, because I'm so used to creating the motivational emotion in people to like push them in a, help them go in a direction that very often, or I should say very rarely, do I even go on to the other side of that of like, hey, look, just because you made it through doesn't mean, you're God's gift to everything, so, now you still have to be humble and, you still have a lot to learn, right? Because you're going to be a new guy in the SEAL team in, few months. Right.
But it's that whole yin and yang thing of and the carrot and the stick. You can push and you can also pull, and you can also give them a 1-2 punch. There's nothing like giving a great motivational speech and then getting them all pumped up and then kick the legs out from under them and leave them laying on the ground crying. And you talk about making an impression. That makes an impression. And then that's that contrast of moving people to extremes with your stories. So number one, you've got to create emotion in people. And again, you don't have to tell a story that's 20 minutes long. You can create emotion in 30 seconds if you tell the story the right way, if you tell the right story. The second key to this is that your emotion sets the tone. And people will take their cue from you. If you're telling a sad story, but you're laughing and joking about it, then people are not going to get sad. They're going to laugh and joke. That's part of what makes comedy work, is the dichotomy of the delivery and the story and that kind of thing. But when you're telling a sad story, you should be sad when you deliver it. If you're telling a happy or inspirational story, you should be inspirational and happy. And people might say, well, what if it's in writing? It doesn't matter, because if you're in that state, it will come through in your writing. Yes, it is easier to deliver a story with emotion when you are doing it live, or whether you're doing it on video or you're doing it from the stage, but it still comes through in the written form. So whatever emotion you want people to feel, you need to convey that emotion. And some of the things that I have found is, as we go through life, we kind of seek this steady middle ground, not too high, not too low. Stu's a great example of that. I mean, Stu, I've never really seen Stu super pissed. I've never seen Stu super excited. maybe when he had a peanut butter and banana sandwich at my house, he was pretty excited about that. But he's always pretty even keeled. But when you're, which is fine. I mean, that's important. I mean,
Yeah.
I would assume that was important when you were 100 feet down in the ocean for 12 hours inside of a mini submersible thing. It helps to be calm.
It's
right?
the drugs.
Okay.
It's the drugs.
It's my medication. But I mean, that's the thing where maybe I take for granted some of the background that I have in the theater. I did a ton of stuff in theater in high school and was really, really, really good at it, if I do say so myself. And I learned
lead actor, senior play.
There you go.
Lead.
You're awesome. Look at you.
Yep.
I was the best supporting actor.
I didn't have to sing though. That was the good news.
Oh, that's good. I can't sing. I can't dance either. So my point is that no, but then you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You emote, and you and I have even talked about this in the past. I said, "Damn, Stu. I mean, you get all motivated. I can't imagine you pissed off when guys aren't paying attention or something like that." And you told me, yeah, it only takes a couple of words and they get the message.
Well, that's the key. If you don't fly off the handle all the time, people take you real seriously when you do. Right. So I've only had to do it a few times and it's effective.
That's a great point. That is an excellent point. So especially when we're talking about telling stories on social media and not just in a sales letter or a video sales letter, but just interacting with your tribe all the time. You need to vary it. Don't always be super, because then everybody's like, well, then that's just them.
Right.
Vary it. And don't be afraid to be honest with your emotions as well. I mean, I cried in front of 4,500 people on stage last month. And it was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. It was something. And I had a lot of people tell me that the story that I told was one of the most powerful things they had ever heard. But if I had told that story without emotion, it wouldn't have near the impact that it did actually have. So don't be afraid to convey emotion. In fact, it's critical. So there's a trick. If you want to convey excitement, if you want to convey happiness and inspiration, talk about 10% louder than you normally talk and talk about 10% faster than you normally talk. That will tell your body, oh, wait, yeah, we're excited. So guys, I got to tell you today, I am super, super excited. We've got a brand new podcast episode. Stu Smith and I are going to talk about the things that are going to make a huge difference in your life as far as telling stories. And one of them is I want to share with you a story about the first time I ever spoke from stage and the microphone went out. Can you believe that? The microphone went out, but you know what? I ran with it. The microphone went out. I was standing in front of these 300 people that were looking at me like, oh my God. And they ran up to the front with a stick microphone and I grabbed that thing and I said, I always wanted to be Donny Osmond and here we go. And I didn't miss a beat and everybody laughed. And I realized right then that when it comes to speaking, all you have to do is just be yourself, practice, and just go for it. So, I mean, I just pulled that out of nowhere, but it's like, oh, damn, that was kind of a cool story, If I was selling a speaking, I don't know. I just wanted to tell that story.
Hey, that's a good one. I did the same thing in front of 800 high school kids on a big football field. The one MC went out, the microphone went out, and I had to yell it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was legit. I was hoarse. Yeah. I was hoarse afterwards.
I bet.
It worked. I said, you need to follow what I am doing.
That's cool.
When I am up, you are up. So anyway, it was a good little workout. And
there you go.
Pretty motivating.
So the third key is you got to use the right stories. Now, I say that, and we've got like two parallel paths we could go down here with people saying, okay, you got to use the right stories. What's the right story? It's like, what a story is that's going to make people sad. What a story is that's going to make people happy or feel inspired or to teach a lesson, to get across a moral, just like the story that we just discovered, Stu talking about guys making it through the hardest part of buds and then screwing up because they have a momentary lapse in judgment.
Yeah, I'm
And
doing a podcast on that today.
that's a great, cool. That's awesome. I mean, that story is going to sell people on a course of action. The point is that don't over analyze it. On the flip side, use a little bit of common sense and know that which story is going to help you accomplish whatever objectives you're trying to set out. So if I was selling a speaking course and I was going to tell that story about the mic going out and the momentary panic and then just saying, hey, I always wanted to be Donny Osmond and let's do this, and using humor and talk about using humor to become more relaxed and relax the audience and then just keep going, that's a perfect story. But maybe telling a story about being the best supporting actor at the Emily Jordan Folger Shakespeare Theater in high school for their national Shakespeare competition, that might be a cool story to tell about. Then talking about creating emotion, that would be a cool story to tell. But telling the story of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of telling the story of when I took my grandkids to Chick-fil-A is not the right story to tell if I'm selling people on marital advice.
Yeah, but I will tell you this. When you took your grandkids to Chick-fil-A, I was in the car with you. You told a great story with a perfect Elmo voice.
That's true. Yes.
You have a great Elmo voice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was
It
looking for the
entertained me.
Elmo.
I was in the passenger seat. I was thoroughly entertained. Didn't add anything to it. And your kids were just like, what happened next, Grandma?
And I'm sitting there thinking, Stu Smith's sitting next to me, and I'm talking like Elmo. So there you go. But make sure the story makes sense. But don't overanalyze it either. That's a big key. So before we kind of sum it up, do you have any thoughts on any of this, Stu, that you want to share, or any questions or anything?
My big thing is, especially with social media, you can do this almost in an instant with a post. You can post a happy post, and usually I would recommend babies and puppies, right?
And unicorns and kitties.
Unicorns. They're always happy, right? You can also do something motivational, maybe a testimonial, somebody who's used your product, that motivates people. But I love humor, right? And and I have found some of my best click-throughs onto my store have been from humorous posts that I did, or something that I did that was pretty damn funny. Whether it was a Kermit meme or something else that just brought laughter, people giggle and they click it and say, who is this guy? Right.
But that's none of my business.
Right. Exactly. So love it. Humor I found to be probably the best. However, since I'm not the guy that goes on the dark side very often, I think today's podcast I'm going to do is take them into that humility side and that dark side of when you become arrogant and cocky at a program where you still are only halfway done. Just because you finished a very challenging part of it doesn't mean you're done.
Right.
You got to still have your game face on. So I think I'm going to take it over there and get a little real with them on that one today. So
and that fits really well with your formula of to, through, and after, because humility applies to, through, and after.
Yeah.
It's when you think your shit doesn't stink, that's usually when life has, oh, come here, I got something for you right here. Yeah. Oh, you think, it doesn't matter what age, what level, as soon as what the Greeks called it, hubris.
Yeah.
In literature, it's hubris, and that's usually when karma is kicking you right square in the gonads. So I think it's going to be very powerful.
Yeah, you can't learn through, you don't learn at the moment of success. You learn at that moment of humility, and staying humble. You will be in receive mode a lot better, right?
That is absolutely true.
Information. So
great.
There you go.
So basically, what we'd like you guys to take away from this are a few things. Number one, target the emotion that you want to create. think don't just create emotion for the sake of creating emotion, because that just confuses people and will actually repel them. If you create emotion and then there's no point, it's like being in a codependent weird relationship in college. You want to get the hell away from that quick. Second, you want to mirror that emotion yourself in the telling of the story. Even if you're writing it and it's in written format, be in that emotional state as you are writing out the story, because it will come through. Number three, tell the right story. Don't just tell any old story, tell the right story. And usually that means it has a moral that leads to whatever course of action that you want people to take. And the thing is, once you've moved them, move people where you want them to go with your product, your service, your idea, your course of action, whatever it is. That's where they end up, is the thing that's going to just make sense after they've been on this emotional roller coaster ride. So the big takeaway here is that you can tell better stories, and you want to tell stories that lead to morals. You want to tell stories with morals that lead to more sales, more signups, and credibility, without having to overanalyze and pull your hair out. Once you get this, it's a very, very, very natural process. So pretty much what I would tell you guys to do, if you are not already members of the Sales, Copywriting, and Content Marketing Hacks group on Facebook, you need to be, because it's absolutely amazing. It's interesting to see our progression now. We're closing in on 4,000 members now, Stu. Is that cool or what? I mean, other people have 4,000 members. They hardly have anybody. 4,000 members is pretty cool, because it's still a really tight group and people are helping each other. People are asking great questions. It's a lot of fun, and some people are having some real breakthroughs. So if you're not a member yet, you need to be. You can go check it out at thejimedwardsmethod.com/group. And we would just ask, if you like this podcast, if you like what we're sharing with you here, please tell your friends, send your friends. Please. This is my emotion of the little lonely puppy dog.
And don't forget, you can see it on YouTube. You can see it on iTunes, Google Play, and very soon it will be on Spotify.
Well, excuse me.
Absolutely.
We're legit. Cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Stu. Great job today.
You bet.
And we will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, everybody.